This is 7's Afternoon News with Angela Cox.
Good afternoon. She starred on the hit TV show Prisoner, but Maggie Kirkpatrick has today avoided discovering what life is really like on the inside. Her sentence for child sex abuse coming up. Shopping online will never be the same again. Federal, state and territory treasurers have today agreed on new tax rules for Australians making purchases from overseas. The details shortly. Police have conceded their search for a missing teenager could become a murder investigation a week after she disappeared. Plus, the freak accident that left racing car driver James Courtney badly hurt.
And thank you. In sport, we'll have the very latest ahead of a big weekend in the AFL, plus the Dragons too good for Penrith in the NRL, also the Wallabies World Cup squad, and a show of respect from England for our retiring captain. Sarah.
Thank you, Jim. On the weather front, temperatures soar well above average in New South Wales, while the West cops a soaking. More details in 10 minutes.
Prisoner star Maggie Kirkpatrick is this afternoon a registered sex offender. She used to play a tough-talking prison warden, but today she escaped spending time on the inside. A Melbourne magistrate sentenced her to community service. Michael Scanlon was in court. A guard has been released after being held hostage by two prisoners at a maximum security facility in Tasmania. Authorities at Risdon Prison in Hobart say they responded to a security incident in the Derwent unit at around 10 this morning. Two inmates armed with improvised knives forced a male staff member into a cell. They negotiated a peaceful resolution, but interviews are continuing to try to determine what their motivation was. No one was injured. The retired judge overseeing the Royal Commission into Union Corruption will decide over the weekend whether he should quit. The ACTU and several unions have argued his position is no longer tenable because of a perceived political bias. The details from Chris Marr. It's just been revealed July was the hottest month ever on Earth. Sarah Cumming joins us now. And Sarah, while we had snow down to low levels, the Northern Hemisphere was baking.
It certainly was. That's right, Ange. Good afternoon. New data out today shows July was the hottest month worldwide since records began back in 1880. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the US has released a report showing the combined average land and ocean temperature was 16.61 degrees. Now that's 0.08 above the previous global record, which is quite significant weather terms. Now, Germany, Austria, Spain and the UK all broke July heat records this year. It was the 39th consecutive July of above average temperatures, and it means 2015 could be the hottest year on record. Scientists say the figures confirm our Earth is warming, with the hot weather reinforced by the El Nino in the Pacific, and in keeping with that trend, temperatures were well above average across New South Wales today. I will be back with the full national weekend forecast a little later, Ange.
Great, thanks Sarah, see you then. Next in 7 News at 4, the number of Australians caught up in the cheating website fallout. Also, former President Jimmy Carter reveals his cancer prognosis, and the plane load of passengers thunderstruck on the tarmac. If the published figures are to be believed, hundreds of thousands of Australians will be very nervously searching hacked email addresses stolen from the cheating website Ashley Madison. A crunch of the numbers shows Sydney is third in the world when it comes to the number of registered clients, just behind New York, but way behind Sao Paulo in Brazil. Melbourne is sixth and Perth is included in the top 25. Ashley Madison is said to have 37 million users around the world. It's a website that encourages infidelity with the slogan, "Life is short, have an affair." Hackers claim to have leaked the names and email addresses of members, but many are believed to be fake accounts. It seems work email addresses are often used. We're told more than 700 accounts have Australian government email addresses. While some have applauded the exposure of love rats, there are serious concerns for the safety of people in countries like Saudi Arabia, where adultery is punishable by death. Former US President Jimmy Carter has revealed he has brain cancer. He was undergoing treatment for liver cancer when a scan of his brain discovered melanomas. Here we go again. Just after 7 months in office, Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has resigned and called an early election. Having only come to power in January, he says his mandate for economic reform has run out and the Greek people need to decide if his government deserves to stay in power. But the stunt could come unstuck. Under the Greek constitution, the president must ask the second largest party in parliament to form a government before calling an election. 2 men thought to have helped the prime suspect in the Bangkok bombing are no longer under investigation. They were suspected of shielding the bomber as he planted his backpack, but Thai police now say one of the men was a tour guide and the other was a Chinese tourist. They're now looking for a different suspect, a woman dressed in a black shirt. An aircraft passenger's video is making news around the world today. Jack Perkins captured the moment lightning struck an aircraft queuing for takeoff from Atlanta in the US. He was taking the video to show his wife how bad the weather was. The plane and passengers are all fine. Next in 7's afternoon news, we'll check the finance markets. Also, the controversial warning from an expert about kissing children on the lips. And later, what do you do with a polar bear that's all grown up? The very adult answer soon. Checking finance now, and joining us today is Stephen Daglian from CommSec. Stephen, it's been a bad week for the Aussie market. Just how bad was it?
It's been quite bad, really, Angela. In August so far, the market has lost around 8.5% of its value. We've had the price of oil falling to the lowest levels in 6.5 years because there's too much oil being pumped out by some of the big producers out there. So energy stocks, oil and gas companies like Woodside and Santos, they've been hit quite hard this week. And the Aussie dollar is also softer at 73 US.
And Stephen, what were the standouts on the Australian market today?
Well, it's quite hard to find any standouts, but if we had to, it would probably be Medibank Private. The private health insurer made its debut on the market back in November last year, and its shares today up about 13% because its profit results were actually better than what the market was expecting.
Stephen Daglian from CommSec, thank you. Most parents have enough to worry about while raising their kids, but a child psychologist is giving them one more to think about. She says kissing children on the lips is too sexual, sparking outrage among many parents who believe it's completely normal and acceptable. The story from Angie Asmus. Tell us what you think. Is there anything wrong with kissing your child or parents on the lips? Have your say by going to our 7 News Facebook page. We'll go through the responses a little later. Next, will Australia agree to America's request to bomb Syria? New details this afternoon from Canberra. Also, the company boss jailed over the death of an employee. And the incredible turnout for the funeral of a music star.
This is 7's Afternoon News with Angela Cox.
If you've just joined us, good afternoon. These are our top stories on 7. Former prisoner star Maggie Kirkpatrick will not go to jail for sexually assaulting a teenage girl 31 years ago. She's been sentenced to 100 hours of community service and will undergo a sex offenders program. Online shopping is about to get more expensive. Federal, state and territory treasurers have agreed to close the loophole which makes online purchases under $1,000 GST free. Queensland Police have conceded their search for missing teenager Jade Kendall may soon turn to a murder investigation. The 16-year-old has not been seen for 7 days. And still to come in sport, Paul Roos warning to the AFL not to follow the NRL's lead. Australia is poised to deepen its military involvement in the Middle East with a formal request for our aircraft to join attacks on Islamic State militants in Syria. The Abbott government has confirmed it's considering a request from the United States for an expanded contribution. Tim Lester there in Canberra. In what's believed to be an Australian first, a trucking company boss has been jailed for 12 years for unsafe work practices which led to the death of one of his employees. 56-year-old Peter Francis Colbert was found guilty of manslaughter after failing to fix the brakes on one of his trucks despite repeated warnings. Robert Brimson died in March last year after hitting a pole to avoid cars when the brakes failed. Colbert will serve a non-parole period of 10 years. There's great news in the battle against dementia this afternoon. It was feared the number of patients would increase in line with our ageing population. But latest research from the University of Cambridge in England has found dementia cases have actually stabilised across Western Europe. Even better, the number of people with the condition has fallen in the UK and among men in Spain. Researchers say improved health and better education could explain the unexpected figures. Next in 7's afternoon news, the woman who's now Hollywood's highest paid star. Also, the theme park that promises not to be fun. And in sport with Jim Wilson, England's tribute to our outgoing skipper. If you couldn't think of anything worse than holidaying at the happiest place on earth, a new theme park in the UK could be right up your alley. Dismaland is not designed with children's fun in mind. It's a dark world created by famous artist Banksy. Sport now with Jim Wilson. And Jim, not so dismal in the cricket?
No, Ange, you're right there. Good afternoon to you and good afternoon, everyone. Australia's top order showed some long overdue fight, but Michael Clarke failed again on day one of the fifth Ashes test at the Oval. Demons coach Paul Roos says the AFL needs to avoid what he describes as farcical player movements in the NRL. Roos says Lockie Henderson's early departure from Carlton after asking for a trade is a bad look for the competition. Jared Hayne concedes he's still a work in progress, but remains confident of making the San Francisco 49ers NFL squad. The 49ers' next pre-season game is against Dallas on Monday. Novak Djokovic lost his cool but managed to avoid a shock defeat at the Cincinnati Masters this morning, setting up a quarter-final clash with his French Open conqueror Stan the Man Wawrinka. I love saying it, Ange. I've had a fun week. It's been nice being back on deck and lovely having you here in the studio on the 4 o'clock bulletin.
Thanks, Jim. Up next, the woman who's just become Hollywood's highest paid actress. That's right after a look ahead to 7 News at 6. Now to your responses to our question of the day. Is there anything wrong with parents and children kissing on the lips? Sybil says, definitely nothing wrong. I kiss my children and grandchildren on the lips, face, forehead. Smother your kids with kisses and tell them you love them every day. And Amelia says, next we won't be able to hug our own children. Most stupid thing I've ever read. Trending online today, Jennifer Lawrence, who's now the highest paid actress in the world, making $52 million over the last year, followed by Scarlett Johansson, who was on top last year, and Melissa McCarthy. It's time to get set for the weekend. Sarah will join us next with the forecast.
Get fresh at the weekend. It's got all of Australia talking. Now, Mike Willesee reaches breaking point with Pete Evans.
I wouldn't feed any of this sort of cereal to my dog.
Why can't I eat dairy? Why can't I eat grains?
The results are in. Does it really work? On Sunday night.
Sarah Cumming joins us with the forecast. Sarah, how's the weekend looking?
And the weekend is a bit of a mixed bag. Temperatures soared well above average in Sydney today, while the Sunshine Coast had heavy rain, 30 millimetres in just 30 minutes. We'll go straight to the radar in Western Australia. We can see it's been another soggy day in Perth with 25 millimetres of rain in the city since 9 o'clock this morning. Let's check the weather cams now. A very foggy start to the day in Sydney. Residents woke to a thick haze over the city thanks to hazard reduction burns. It was very warm for late winter, hitting 21 this afternoon, sitting on 19 right now. To Melbourne, and a fairly grey and cloudy day, currently sitting on 18. It feels a little bit cooler though, more like 14 degrees. A few very light showers around Brisbane, 18 degrees right now. And in Adelaide, it's currently 20 degrees and looking fairly lovely. Blue skies for the city. From the satellite, a trough in the east will generate showers in parts of Victoria and New South Wales, dragging very warm air into the southeast tomorrow. Now, the low near Perth will start to move eastwards, and that will be the start of quite a lot of rain for much of the country over the next week. In the capitals tomorrow, 24 degrees in Brisbane with a shower or two. Sydney, very warm, up to 25 degrees, just the chance of a light late shower. A dry day in Melbourne, 19 degrees. Some early fog around for Adelaide, just a possible shower, 17 the high tomorrow. And an early shower or two in Perth, 18 degrees. Looking further ahead to Sunday, those showers will clear from Perth, 18 degrees and dry, partly cloudy for Adelaide, just the chance of some rain at night. Cooling down to 15 degrees in Melbourne, just the risk of a shower. Some rain starting to develop in Sydney, 20 degrees. Some heavy falls are possible late on Sunday, and a mostly dry Sunday in Brisbane, 25 degrees. That's the latest weather, and more at 6 o'clock.
Thanks, Sarah. That's the afternoon news for this Friday. Our next bulletin is 7 News at 6. I'm Angela Cox. Thanks for your company today and this week. I'll be back Monday at 4. See you then.